What's going on, guys? This is Experienced Optimist. And I made a video entitled How to Beat the System. And in that video, I spoke about ways in which men today can achieve happiness and contentment through the strategy I laid out in the video. In this video, I want to speak about what makes that strategy so effective. So first, let me preface that this is not my strategy. Men have been using the strategy or variation of the strategy forever. I learned about the strategy when I began traveling and ran into men that were happy and were living life on their own terms and not anyone else's. Most were retired veterans, but the good thing about this strategy is that it can be adapted to fit any man's situation. So what makes this strategy so effective? Number one, you do not need a mystical leader. I have found in life that most men are waiting around for some prophetic leader to lead them to the promised land. This is especially true in impoverished areas. That is not going to happen. The mystical leader is a figment of your imagination meant to keep you in a state of destitution your entire life. Truth be told, the so-called charismatic mystical leaders that I have come across in life, the majority of them have been con artist money grubbers that take more than they give. Therefore, if you want to gain your freedom, it is up to you and you alone. The game plan is already there for you to follow. How you get there is up to you. Second, you do not need to be part of a group. The problem with collectivism and the pro-black, alt-right, or in-group, out-group delusion is that people instinctively lean towards tribalism, partake in group out, group in behavior, create dominance hierarchies, foster in-group competition, etc. All of which that will lead to conflict and infighting. The inherent conflict is why collectivist ideals fail to get off the ground or fail long term. Now, I don't know if you guys remember Iron Man 1. Iron Man asked the villain how he solved the icing problem. So in that movie, when Iron Man first created his suit, when he flew into the atmosphere, Iron Man's suit iced up and he almost died because of it. So what he did was he grabbed some materials from a satellite and augmented his suit so then he could fly into the atmosphere and his suit wouldn't freeze. The problem was that the villain never did it. So when the villain was trying to kill Iron Man later on in the movie, he flew into the atmosphere and then the villain, his suit froze. Iron Man actually asked him how he solved the icing problem. The villain said, "What icing problem?" His suit ended up freezing and the villain failed and ended up dying because of it. So the point I'm trying to make is that people that constantly preach about collectivism and unity never address the biological drives that cause people to become hostile towards one another. Therefore, when it comes to humanity intergroup conflicts, man's enduring penchant for competition, men's addiction to wanting to dominate other men, and we all know why men do this. They do it generally to win the affection and attention of women. In this context, these are the never addressed icing problems that sabotages progress. To address these you might as well say social icing problems, what I have discovered in life is that every man needs to be able to build his own castle and have ownership over it. Essentially, every man must be provided with the opportunity to reach any outcome independent of a group the way he sees fit. This type of approach to life is far superior to the collectivist action because it removes humanity's propensity for violence and conflict within a group setting. For example, let's say you retire from the Air Force after 20 years with a full pension. The collectivist mindset, they want to applaud you and want you to become a leader that will motivate them to achieve great things. They essentially want you to become the mystical leader that I mentioned earlier. This will not work long term because someone will always sabotage the progress of the group due to man's innate biological drive for dominance. Now, let's say instead of you becoming a mystical leader to a group of 4 people, for example, one person each enters one branch of the military. For example, one person enlists in the Air Force, one in the Army, one in the Navy, and one in the Marines. Remember, each of the 4 people has the same goal: to reach financial and monetary freedom by retiring early after 20 years in each branch. With this approach, each man can live life the way he wants. Nevertheless, all men are employing the same strategy. They chose career fields that will allow them to retire early so they can extend the amount of free time they will have available to them later on in life. They will stay out of debt and live a minimalist lifestyle. They will have created a monthly stipend that pays them $3,000 plus a month minimum after retirement. They will practice sexual discipline, and they will cultivate a strong, impregnable mindset. What is their result? Each of these 4 individuals will reach success independently because they followed the plan. Not because the mystical leader held their hand every step of the way, but rather they formulated an individualistic path that best suited them based on a dependable strategy. Daniel Pink, the author of Drive, a good book by the way, says this: I'm convinced it's the latter, that our basic nature is to be curious and self-directed. And I say that not because I'm a dewy-eyed idealist, but because I've been around young children and because my wife and I have 3 kids of our own. Have you ever seen a 6-month or 3-year-old who is not curious and self-directed? I haven't. That's how we are out of the box. If at age 14 or 43 we're passive and inert, that's not because of our nature. It's because something flipped our default setting. Now, I just used the military as an example, but this game plan and strategy can apply to anyone: the engineer, the professional athlete, the entrepreneur, etc. Instead of waiting on some mystical leader to tell you how to be unified and to lead you to the promised land, you already have the basic plan laid out in front of you. This could take 5 years or 30 years, but the goal and the principles remain the same. It is up to you to follow the plan to gain your freedom. Finally, and most importantly, this strategy forces you to develop a mental capability to protect against adverse circumstances and see the world differently. I remember back in my Air Force days, I came across a real asshole. I mean, this guy was a complete douchebag in every sense of the word. But this guy was a great leader and could troubleshoot his ass off when it came to electronics. Had I had the game plan of early retirement that I speak about in my videos, I could have used his talents to my benefit and worked with him to become a top-notch troubleshooter myself. However, I did not and missed out on a great opportunity. This is why having your game plan in your mind early is one of your biggest strengths. When you already have your main goal in mind, like I talk about in my videos, you become more of a strategic thinker and you will see opportunities and paths to success that other people overlook. There's a quote that states, "Whoever will be free must make himself free. Freedom is no fairy gift to fall into a man's lap." What is freedom? To have the will to be responsible for one's life. Now, if you like this video, like, subscribe, support other MGTOW channels, and I will talk to you later.